As the wildfires continue to rage all throughout Los Angeles, California Governor Gavin Newsom appears to dance while talking about land grabs.
I was just talking to Josh Green, the governor down in Hawaii, who had some ideas around some land use concerns he has around speculators coming in, buying up properties, and the like. So we're already working with our legal teams to move those things forward. And
now it seems incredibly insensitive, but it might be just because he's a weird guy when you actually pay attention. So we could sit back and make fun of his mannerisms all day, but that distracts from the fact that our governor actually looks giddy when talking about what happened in Maui might be happening here too. As it's easy to forget, but the wildfires in Lahaina happened just over a year ago, and still to today, much of the land is still rubble. So we gotta talk about what's in store for Los Angeles residents, how I basically believe nothing Newsom says about fixing the issues, and how this catastrophic failure that we the taxpayers essentially funded, which is a very important point we gotta get to, but how it's so convenient for these politicians and their finances that I actually refuse to believe this wasn't by design. So let's quickly recap why I don't believe a word of Newsom's doublespeak. As first he said the water reservoirs were full.
the reservoirs are completely full. The state reservoirs here in Southern California, that mis and disinformation, I don't think advantages or aids any of us.
And when he was called out for them clearly being empty,
we do know, though, from reporting here locally that one reservoir that serves the Palisades was not full.
And that's exactly what triggered my desire to get the investigation to understand what was happening.
the reservoirs being full and you investigating why they weren't is a paradox, and how he says it with a straight face actually makes sense when you realize the randomly moving of his arms is probably his tell when he's lying. So he should just stick to tweets, even though his lie about not cutting the firefighters' budget is thoroughly documented on how he cut their budget by the tens of millions of dollars. But we deep dive on that in the last video about social media censorship.
I ask you, we've got to deal with this misinformation. There are hurricane force winds of mis and disinformation lies. And it breaks my heart as people are suffering and struggling that we're up against those hurricane forces as well.
It's so insanely disgusting for him to compare the winds spreading wildfires into people's homes to how he's suffering the consequences of his own lies. But that's not even the worst part, as one day he's saying he won't politicize a natural disaster, and the very next day he's posting his California Fire Facts page that actually links to his own Gavin Newsom website, which has a huge button to donate to the Fire Foundation, but is actually a link to the Act Blue website that allows the Democrats to skim a portion of their money. And that's just the 20-second recap of an 11-minute video where we go in on why I don't trust anything Newsom's saying about the recovery efforts. As it may sound good that he's willing to speak to Hawaii's Governor Green, as he also recently experienced similar fires in Lahaina, but I just think it's important to highlight: is he taking advice from someone who successfully served his citizens? Or is he taking advice from someone who utilized a crisis to advance their pre-existing political agenda? As we covered what occurred in Maui back in August of 2023, where land grabs were immediately attempted.
Investors and realtors calling the families who lost their home, offering to buy their land.
There is a massive opportunity for land grab from corporate entities that don't have nothing to do with the Lahaina community.
These people coming in and trying to buy up their land. It just happened.
And right off the bat, the governor vowed to protect the landowners. But what exactly happened to all those areas devastated by the wildfires? As a couple of weeks ago, it appears most of that land is still nothing.
As you can see, there isn't a lot of construction happening in this part of Lahaina yet. Most of the neighborhoods closest to the ocean are in what's called a Special Management Area, or SMA, which does add an extra layer of complexity to the permitting process.
Now, I do understand that building on an island with limited resources is difficult, but what happened to the billions of dollars of federal relief? What happened to the removal of all the government red tape? And why is some of that assistance suddenly drying up in March? Which is why it's important to see the similarities in Governor Green to Newsom.
I'm already thinking about ways for the state to acquire that land so that we can put it into workforce housing, to put it back into families, or to make it open spaces in perpetuity as a memorial to people who were lost.
So if the state wants to protect the land from predators trying to take advantage of residents recovering from a fire, that's a great concept if they actually deliver. But it seems over a year later, the residents still haven't seen some of that money, and if Newsom can't even admit we didn't have water without crying to Biden to censor us, I have absolutely zero confidence he's going to be able to protect Los Angeles residents as soon as the news cycle switches and the cameras stop rolling. Now, there is some speculation about the locations of the wildfires and how it plays into the Smart LA 2028 campaign that coincidentally lines up with the Summer Olympics coming to Los Angeles.
Los Angeles will be host to the World Cup, and then the Super Bowl, and then the Olympics. With this rebuilding effort needing to take place, is LA going to be ready for all of those global events?
We're already organizing a Marshall Plan. We already have a team looking and reimagining LA 2.0.
You just said you're organizing a Marshall Plan for the rebuilding of California. What is that Marshall Plan?
For
Tell
this
us about
region,
this Marshall
we're just starting to lay out. I mean, we're still fighting these fires. So we're already talking to city leaders. We're already talking to civic leaders. We're already talking to business leaders and nonprofits. And we're talking to labor leaders. We're starting to organize how we can put together a collection of individuals on philanthropy, the recovery, how we can organize the region, how we can make sure that we are seeking federal assistance for the Olympics more broadly, but also federal assistance for the recovery efforts.
So aside from his Marshall Plan being more buzzword word salad and wacky flailing that makes him look like he's lying again, I think it's important to note how much he references federal funds, as he recently turned a budget surplus into a $45 billion deficit in just 2 years, with plenty of money to toss at homelessness and billions more needed for Biden's newcomers, but not enough to keep water in the fire hydrants. Though it's not like we didn't try, as back in 2014 we paid $2.7 billion for a water project that up to today still has not been completed. And although we don't know the origins of the Pacific Palisades fire quite yet, we now know that guy trying to start a fire in Woodland Hills was homeless and illegal, which is the ultimate slap in the face to the Los Angeles taxpayer. Not only do you pay some of the highest taxes in the country, but your money didn't go to providing water and firefighters to protect your home. No, it was diverted to paying for the exact type of person that's setting fires in your neighborhood. And when your governor slithers to the surface to speak about it, he only seems interested in silencing his criticism, fundraising for the Democrats, and milking your suffering for more federal funds that he'll likely get a huge cut of, as he doesn't care about our well-being unless someone more important is noticing. As back in 2023, he went to China to meet with President Xi, immediately setting back foreign relations by decades. But the very next month, when Xi came to San Francisco, California, the city that normally looks like the third world was immediately cleaned up and turned into a dystopian nightmare.
Folks say, oh, they're just cleaning up this place because all those fancy leaders are coming into town. That's true, because it's true.
Which is why I think Los Angeles residents are doomed, as even if your home wasn't directly impacted, displacement will. And even if billions of dollars pour in, I doubt they'll be spent as originally intended, as Newsom needs to prepare the city for the Olympics with the whole world watching, but that's gonna be at the SoFi Stadium, the Coliseum, and other places nowhere near the fires. The Olympic Village is gonna be at UCLA, and I'm absolutely certain he'll prioritize his important visitors over his own suffering citizens.
As for hurricane force winds of mis and disinformation that can divide a country.
And this isn't hurricane-force disinformation, it's actually what he's done every year he's been in power, and he's literally wiggling into getting away with it again. So if you appreciate my concise, lighthearted commentary on the tragic status that is today's reality, hopefully I've earned your subscription, then go check out the video on how they forced social media sites into covering for them, and how they finally got caught.